Congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
I want to ask you, in this ocean of multi-mega studio production, I think it's very gratifying to see a film that touches people and it's a human story, and you're not here to make $100 million. Well, if you make 100 million, it means that the world has changed. It's great. So, can you comment on that?
Sure. I think the art that I love the most and the movies that made me feel spoken to and less lonely and expanded my mind as a teenager were films that that seemed real and that talked about uncomfortable things, and movies that movies and art that people are willing to put something of themselves in, especially where it's uncomfortable or revealing. So for me, that was a big part of the draw of this film, was the chance to talk about things that are not often discussed, that are uncomfortable, but felt truthful and felt important.
James, how come you do so many different things and you don't get stuck in being like a Hollywood star like other actors, and you keep researching, you teach? So in a way, it's very unique to do things like this in a world that is different.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of interests, so that's one of the reasons that I do a lot of things. But I hate the idea of being trapped. And in all of the different realms that I've entered into, I'll always find people that in each of them, whether it's somebody in academia who feels like he is maybe writing great papers, but he'll never have the audience that I have in the movie world, or the opposite case is true, where I'll find actors who are incredibly successful and they feel like they don't have enough intellectual heft in their lives, or and want to go back to school, and so I feel very fortunate that I get to be in all of these worlds, that variety really is the spice of life.
That's really cool. Would you say that this film is about finding peace after going through this horror of discovering things?
Yeah, I think the film has to do with coping. I think it's about the way that we use memory to inform who we are, the way that the past informs the future, and how much of what happens to us makes us who we are, both how we see ourselves and how we think the world perceives us. And that changes. And the way that you see yourself changes over time. And so I think the way that you deal with your past changes with it.
I think it takes a lot of passion to wait 7 and 3 years to bring this out into the big screen. Is that the right time? That's what I read. That you got the rights
when I got the rights.
And then you started working together 3 years ago. And it's cool to be like so dedicated. I'm not saying that you were just doing that, but
Well, for me, it's not as if I didn't have anything else going on those 7 years.
Right.
So, it wasn't that painful. But it was really just waiting and trying to figure out the best way to do this. And then after, going to school with Pam at NYU, and then working on some smaller projects with her, I realized that she would probably be the best person for this, and probably even direct a better movie than I would if I did the material. I think for Pam, you can talk about, it did take 2 years for her to, work on the script and 30 rewrites and go through the Sundance Lab. But I think part of that too was just it's her first feature, and so my guess is, or I know actually, for her second feature, did not take 2 years, but that a lot of that was just learning and understanding and being sure about each step that she made.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. It was also this screenplay in particular was was a challenging book to make into a film. It's not Harry Potter. It doesn't have this certain plot and world and characters and like a beginning, middle, and end. That's what's special about the book, and that was also the challenge and why it was appealing. That it was this swirl of feelings and ideas, and it took a long time to realize how to make that into a film.